Hello, everyone. This is Dylan with OptiCall. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy out there. We appreciate you joining us on today's webinar. The topic is the refractive resurrection. We're going to go over growth strategies through COVID-19. We're really excited about the lineup we have today. We've been able to reach out to all of our marketing partners in the industry, and it's really cool how everybody's come together collectively to try to share what they're doing, what they're seeing. We're going to share a lot of stats today and hopefully have some good takeaways. The topics are going to be the State of the Union. We're going to talk about opportunities right now, messaging, and an action plan. But before we get into our guest speakers, I'm going to introduce our CEO, Bill Mercier. He's just going to give a quick overview of what we're seeing over at OptiCall. And we also have a few polls that we're going to launch here just to kind of get some feedback from the audience. So, Bill, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. And I appreciate you putting this together. This actually started kind of as a, I don't want to say it was a joke. It was something that was meant to be funny in the beginning. We got together about maybe a week or so ago and talked about having a virtual happy hour where we were actually all just sitting in our homes and had a drink in hand and talking about what's going on with, the industry and practices and who's pausing and, what's truly happening. And that really spawned the idea of getting everybody together and sharing ideas with the community that's out there and trying to get people to understand what's happening beyond their own four walls or their particular practice. And so that's why we're here today. So, and we couldn't be more pleased to have a lineup like we have. We've worked with all of these folks, the practices that they represent. I do understand that there may be some people that don't know who OptiCall is on the phone. We started the company out about 18 years ago, and basically we take and make phone calls for the elective surgery industry, predominantly in ophthalmology, but in some other specialties as well. And so we have a really good pulse on what's going on in the industry as far as volume. And when our practices are marketing, who's calling in, how are they converting, a lot of information about patient calls and web leads that come in as well. And so one of the things that I want to say about the industry prior to COVID-19 is that—
Hey, before you do that, should we launch the poll? I kind of forgot. You want to do that after you talk?
Yes.
Okay. So sorry to interject like that, Bill, but hopefully you guys can see this poll here. We just want to get a little feedback from the audience in terms of how was your refractive volume at the beginning of the year from January to mid-March. So we'll just leave that up for a second. And I forgot to give the disclaimer, Bill, about the banana shirts that we've got a theme here at OptiCall that were bananas about patient phone calls. So if you see us at one of the trade shows, come by. We've got these press ball bananas. We'll get a picture of you and put it on our Instagram page. And we've got about 45% of the people have voted. I'll just leave this up for another 30 seconds here. We've got 2 more polls that we're going to post. All right, looks like the majority of you have voted. I'm going to go ahead and close this out and launch the results. I don't know, can you see the results, Bill?
I can, yes.
Okay.
So can you see them, or would you like me to read them?
Yeah, I can see them, but I've lost my video view, so I'll just read them out real quick. So it looks like the first option significantly better than 2019. That was about 9%. Slightly better than 2019 was 28%. Same was about 20%. And below 2019 numbers was 11%. And the other 32% were not sure, not applicable. So I think that says in general that volume had picked up from the previous year.
Agreed, and I would say the same thing. We had a really good start of the year until this all happened. What I can say also is that we did notice some trends after it's happened. We had a good number of practices that have stayed online with our services. And it's interesting because the ones that stayed on and the ones that continued to market continued to get marketed. And I think as states went to the stay-at-home order, more people had time to research things, more people had time to make phone calls or email in or whatever it may be. And on top of that, I think that you would normally think that in a time like this, things would slow down or people wouldn't have money. But we've all been staying at home for weeks now, and our entertainment budget is zero, and clothing budget is zero, and we're spending more on groceries and probably alcohol than anything, but we're not spending money on outside stuff. So people are actually saving money at this time, even though some are unemployed. At least that's what the call volume suggests now. So we're really pleased to see this happening, and it's one of the reasons why we wanted to get everybody on the phone today to talk about what can you do amidst this and to make the most of this situation. So I'm going to introduce.
We got two more polls, Bill. Do you want me to go ahead and launch those other ones? We got
sure.
two more polls.
Yeah.
The other one is basically some feedback on what's happened since the practices were forced to shut down starting in mid-March. Love your feedback on that. And while we're getting the results, I'll also go over some housekeeping. If you guys have any specific questions, we're probably going to save it until the end, just because we've got 10 speakers on today's call. So we did extend this to be an hour and a half webinar, but we should be done with the presentations within the first hour. And we're happy to stick around and answer your questions. We've already had a lot of questions on the registration that we'll cover. And if you do have a question, if you can let us know if it's directed to any particular panelist, that would be helpful. So looks like we've got most of the results here on this poll. So I'm going to launch this here. So, gosh, I'm impressed to see 3% have increased their lead volume since mid-March, 8% the same, 19% down, and then 45% significantly down, which I would think that's where the majority of everybody would be, and 25% non-existent. Did you get all that, Bill?
I did, yes, thank you. And you have.
And then our last poll is about the who's offering virtual consults. So I don't know if you want to talk about those last numbers, or if you want me to just jump right into that one.
You can jump right into that. I can talk while the survey is being delivered and responded to. But okay. I can tell you that we did have some practices that jumped on the virtual bandwagon early on. And we found that the conversion rates were actually very high into those virtual consults. And I think what the reason being, first off, people don't want to venture outside of their house. They feel safe in their house, but there's still the interest in having the procedures done. So, people are definitely interested.
All right. I'll go ahead and close this.
Go ahead, Dylan.
I'll go ahead and close this poll and share the results. Looks like the majority of the practices, 56% are doing virtual consultations, 17% no, 17% planning to, and 11% not sure and not applicable.
That's great. We'll talk more about this as we get the other folks on the phone to chat about different ideas on how to do them. I would also encourage everybody beyond at the end of this presentation that we have with all of our marketing partners. We do have a doctor that's coming on board that's really done the most to make a good opportunity out of what's been happening. And I would encourage people to stay on the phone and learn a little bit about what he's been doing in this post-COVID-19 situation. So with that said, I'd like to introduce a really good friend of mine, somebody I've been working with since the very beginning of OptiCall, and somebody who really helps practices light it on fire across the states too. Mike Malley is not on camera, but he is on the phone with us today. And Mike, why don't you take it away and give a little bit of advice from your side?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Mike Malley is on remote location with a film crew right now. We're crossing a stream in West Texas. So the good news is we're out here, shooting, commercials and video for the Refractive Resurrection. And so today you're really going to hear, like they said, you're going to hear from everybody about what to say, what to spend, how to convert, who should be doing virtual consultations, where we are. Michael King is going to discuss the 5 phases of this whole marketing, COVID process, from panic to denial to boredom to hope and to the new normal. You're going to hear all about that. So it's really an exciting time, and I don't want to spend too much of my time telling you what's going to happen. I just want you to know that it appears that the momentum has started. Are we back? Obviously not. All we needed was in Texas this week, perhaps. For example, we had a full day of cataract surgery yesterday in Amarillo, Texas. Monday in Nashville, Tennessee, we scheduled 13 LASIK virtual consults. So things are already happening. And there's a lot of practices we had, which was promising, to say that people who had scheduled LASIK surgery at the end of February and the middle part of March, they're coming back in to keep their procedures. And so, so refractive surgery will make a comeback. Should you be careful getting back in this market? Absolutely. As you'll hear, there's opportunity, but you got to be careful and you got to be in the game. So I'm really going to, jump off here, and I apologize for that because we have this film crew and we got a long way to go tonight. Michael King's going to pick it up, who has the LASIK marketing, organization. He's probably as good as anybody on lead gen, on patient education, on digital marketing. So thank you all for tuning in. We just launched a 60-second TV commercial in Austin that really kind of depicts what we wanted to say right now to the public. And if you want to view that, then just let OptiCall know, and then forward it out to you along with all the other samples people are going to offer. But it kind of gives you an idea of what we're out here saying right now and what you can be prepared for. So, Michael King, go ahead and take it off, and I'll get out to my film crew. Thanks, everybody, and keep it safe.
Always great to hear your voice, Mike, and I really do appreciate the introduction. Dylan, just to confirm, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, awesome. So I wanted just to give a quick shout out to OptiCall for organizing this, and also for the fellow panelists. All of our colleagues and good friends. Just much respect for all of us putting the time in. And then for those of you that are watching the webinar, you're taking time out of your schedules right now to be able to listen, to kind of learn the state of what's going on. So what I wanted to do, and first off, I want to give full credit to my good friend Rod Solar and Laura Livesey at Livesey Solar for putting together this infographic. We did a webinar a few weeks ago to roughly 500 practices from all around the world, and we showcased this amazing little infographic to give you a little bit of a sort of a high-level overview of what's going on with this the coronavirus chaos that we're in. And so the 5 phases, first of all, I think that just to kind of cut through the first 2, think back a month ago, there was a lot of that denial, like, this is not going to happen. It's just going to be, small. It's going to, it's not going to really affect our community. Obviously, we're quickly out of the denial phase. The panic phase is like, oh my goodness, that's probably like 3 weeks to a month ago, where you're having to shut down your clinic. You're not able to do any face-to-face appointments. So you can see right there, your face-to-face appointments have kind of gone down to little to nothing. And so what we have right now, and I think a lot of us right here are in this boredom phase, kind of around right here. Now, to Mike's point, some of us are in the hope phase simply because some states are starting to be able to do surgery. But what you find right now is that a lot of us are literally just sitting at home, and we have a lot of time on our hands. And so what that does mean, though, is that there are practices that what we are recommending to practices, rather, is to do 3 distinct things during this phase. The first of which is, I would say, is the virtual consultations. And so if you think about it, the virtual consultation is really one of the best tools that you have right now in your belt to be able to still remain engaged with patients. And so I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say virtual consultations are here to stay. I believe that long-term, even after this pandemic is over, you're still going to want to be able to offer virtual consults. Why is that? Number one, it has less friction for the patient. They don't have to take time off work, travel, get a babysitter, drive in, and get to your office, fill out paperwork, wait in the waiting room, sit in the lane and wait, et cetera, et cetera. Really, it's actually putting them in control of their experience and of their journey, where all they got to do is show up to a Zoom call or whatnot, and that gives them that chance in the comfort of their home. And there's already a positive sort of mindset that people have around a Zoom call. It gives them that chance to ask all the questions that they have about the procedure in a comfortable format. Secondly, is that you may have coming back from COVID, less operational capacity in your clinic, simply because you may have a lot of patients that are all trying to get in and be able to have their procedure done. So to practice social distancing, you may have less appointments available. So that's why if you have not gone on virtual consults, I strongly recommend it. The second thing that you can be doing right now is content development. And what do I mean by that? Right now, the mindset of the people that you are serving has changed, right? We've all going through this collective experience. And so you want to be able to have the opportunity right now to create content to speak to them. So what are some examples of things that you could do right now? Number one, you could take the top 10 questions about any procedure and film that via Zoom, edit them into individual videos and use those for retargeting or in emails. Number two, you can create welcome videos. Number three, you could film patient testimonials or have them share their story via Zoom. Number four, you can do videos for your confirmation pages and for your landing pages. And number five, you could even go and film an office tour at your practice. So there's no shortage of things that you can do on the content development side. And then on the patient communication side, what you want to be thinking about is how can I be looking at, again, our website and our landing pages, our emails, our brochures, our ad copy, all of those things. You want to take the time right now while you're in that boredom phase and hopefully moving into the hope phase to be able to spend that time on your practice. The other thing I wanted to mention on this slide here is that we do expect that initially for refractive surgery, it might be a little slow going simply because a lot of millennials right now have lost their jobs or have reduced income. But we do expect that the cataract, there's going to be a lot of pent-up demand on the cataract and the presbyopic correction side. So those of you that are looking to be able to rebound out of this, you want to consider those three things that you can do. A couple other things just real quick I wanted to do, and then I'll pass it along to my good friend Connor Dixon, is this is directly from Google Trends. And if you look right here, you can see we've had two consecutive weeks of increased search demand on the term LASIK. And so that's a very positive indicator. And then we're also seeing that reflected. Here is one of our clients that has been offering virtual consults. And that if you look right here is the amount of leads that they've been bringing in by week and the amount of virtual consults that they've been bringing in by week. So again, that's what I wanted to present today. I do believe there's a lot of opportunity. You are made for this moment. You were here on this webinar. And to be able to articulate some of those opportunities for you, my good friend Connor Dixon, I will pass the mic to you, my friend. It's all yours.
All righty. Thank you, Michael, for that glowing introduction. All righty, let me see.
You get the screen control, Connor?
I have it. I don't have anything to share, but you can see me,
Oh,
right?
that's right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just talking. I'm just riffing. Perfect. Okay. So as Michael King talked about, we do have a lot of opportunity right now. And so that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to use my time to talk about the opportunity that you have right now to get the word out. And it starts with the big question, and that is, should you be advertising right now? And the answer is unequivocally yes. And the reason is because I think most practices think of marketing as a necessary evil expense, which is why, like in a time of retraction right now, it's one of the very first things that gets cut from the budget item, from the budget line. But practices need to think about it as an investment. It's an investment into your lead pipeline, and it's an investment into the future health of your practice. And especially now, because when you think about it, as Michael King talked about, everybody is in the boredom stage, which means that the eyes and the ears of our prospects are more accessible to our marketing message than ever before. And so, like many of you on this webinar, and most of your competitors as well, and across the board advertisers in general, most of you guys have reduced or completely eliminated your marketing spend, especially a lot of you guys that might have big box competitors in the marketplace. And because of all that, right now, advertising opportunities are more affordable than ever. I mean, even you guys who are still doing traditional media can probably go talk to your reps and get crazy deals and even deferred payments in terms of trying to get additional ad exposure. But really all it adds up is simply saying that if you're willing to spend the investment right now, you have a great opportunity to vastly improve your brand equity and your top of mind awareness with your consumers in your marketplace. I'm going to share a couple stats here really quick to prove that point. Okay, so first and foremost, we took a 45-day average of all the leads that have come in from this point back, so basically around the beginning of this whole pandemic. self-tests, virtual consults, et cetera, et cetera. And it shows that about half it's about half the lead count than it was year over year, 2019 to 2020, which is, to be expected. But then again, going off Michael King's, sentiment that it's increasing now, and what Bill talked about as well. If we look at it over the past 2 weeks, the lead count is only down 13% over the past 2 weeks, year over year. So what that tell us, basically, that the boredom phase and the eagerness for people to return to normalcy is proving to be very real, which means you need to be out there advertising right now. And so another stat, looking specifically, in this case, one particular client on paid social media advertising, same budget, we never decreased the budget, February, March, and this month in April. If we look at February, with the same marketing spend, we saw 172,000 impressions, which means the amount of times that our ads were served to somebody, and we'll call it like a baseline level engagement to those ads, right? So this past 30 days, with the same exact ad budget, we saw an impression rate of 572,000 and an increase of over 300% in ad engagement. And so basically what that tells us is that—
Just a quick question. Somebody wanted to know what type of advertising. Was it social media?
This is particularly about paid social media advertising, this stat that I'm sharing. And in general, when I talk about advertising and the opportunity that you have right now, it is in paid search, it is in paid social, it is taking advantage of any traditional media opportunities you might have if you normally play in that space. Just simply because we have people's attention right now, and it's more affordable than ever, and you have a bigger opportunity because your competitors are likely not advertising, and other people aren't advertising, which means there's more space, right, for your ads to appear, right? So again, that's the whole reason why that's increased so much. Why is it 572,000 versus 172,000? It's because more people are spending time on social media than ever before, which means there's more chance for you guys to get exposure, but also less advertisers are advertising, which means there's more inventory and more ability for you to get your message across, right? Now, even though those numbers haven't directly translated into like a massive increase in leads, what it has shown is a massive increase in engagement with your brand, right? And this particular client in particular. But anyway, I think that's very powerful for something like vision correction because it's got a much longer buying cycle than something like a food product. And so when we talk about top of mind awareness, when we talk about brand impression, those are very valuable to us as marketers for our practices. Now why is that? As I mentioned, and it's been talked before, some of my colleagues on this call are going to go into more detail about like what you should be saying right now. But when we talk about top of mind awareness and brand impression, those are really just fancy ways of saying that we're trying to get people to know you, to like you, and to trust you. And so what that means is, while discounts are good, and we're likely going to need to do discounts to get people to take action, since we have people's attention right now, first and foremost, you need to be thinking strategically and consciously about how you want to position yourself and the story you want to tell, because you have a great opportunity to think about and position yourself in terms of what your je ne sais quoi is, why you do what you do, and how your practice is different from the competition that's out there, right? And so it's just a really exciting time to be able to make gains in your marketplace. And if you really look at it proactively from an investment perspective and are really strategic with the message you want to put out there, you have a great opportunity to grab tons of market share and control your marketplace right now. And simply just to wrap it up, I don't think anybody on this call knows what the new normal is really going to be like, 3 months, 6 months down the road. Let's say it comes back and it's 50% of what it was last year. But if you take action right now, it assures you that you're going to have a bigger piece of that 50% pie or whatever it might be. And so my 3 takeaways are: 1, yes, you should be advertising right now, because if you don't advertise April, May, June, you're going to wish you did July, August, September. 2, there's never been a more affordable time to gain this amount of potential exposure, and there's never been a better opportunity to grab people's attention. And 3, in doing so, you need to be thoughtful about the message that you put out there and how you tell your story about your practice. And that's all I got. And now I'm going to hand it over to another good friend of mine, Mike Bukowski, who's going to talk a little bit more about some of the opportunities in the industry that he's seen from his perspective. I've had the fortune of knowing Mike since they ran their operation out of a tiny apartment in Chicago almost 15 years ago. So, take it away, Mike.
Oh, Mike, you're muted.
Mike, you're on mute. You want to go ahead and fill in, Connor, until Mike gets in here?
He was going to talk about, let me see. Mike was going to talk about a little bit more specific in terms of the data that he's seen and what he's seen from clients, which is is very similar to what we're seeing as well in terms of like, even though leads are down overall, cost per leads are actually down pretty significantly in a good ratio, meaning like the average cost per lead from a paid search ad is lower than they've ever been for our clients because people are searching with more intent and taking action versus just browsing right now. And so again, from an affordability perspective, it's a great time to be putting your message out there.
And while he's scurrying around with that, I'll add a couple of points as well. That what I've seen right now is that there's just a lot less people in doing paid traffic, right? So you can look in Auction Insights and Google and see that there's half or a third as many people that are actually out there. And so what that means is that the cost per click, and Michael will be able to, when he gets his audio on, talk about the things that he's seen about the reductions in costs and increases in conversion rates. And so that's kind of the benefit that we have right now is that there's less people and there's just that impression share you're able to grab as well.
Exactly. Less people advertising, but we're seeing people are still interested and are still searching for our products and services, right? So
yeah, that goes back to what was seen in Google Trends, yeah.
Exactly. We need to be out there. You need to be out there. You need to be, as much as you can afford, I feel like people should be putting it into advertising right now. Because again, you might be, like you were talking about, Michael, you might be, looking at your May into June pipeline as being pretty full because there's people who had surgeries booked February, March, April deferring, right? That might make May into June look pretty well. But what's going to happen when July rolls around and August rolls around? You're going to get that pipeline filled by advertising right now.
Yeah, especially if you're 30 days out in your clinic, being able to do surgery. Like for here in Washington, it's May 18th is the date that it looks like we're able to do refractive surgery. So that means that right now is when we want to be generating those conversations with the people that are interested. And so the positive of seeing that Google Trends going up can't be overstated. It is an important thing. Now, granted, that's the United States, and I think each state is different, but I think that to me, that's a very encouraging thing. And what that says is that the intent is still there to have the surgery. People are just waiting for the right moment. And I think the first 3 to 4 weeks of this pandemic have caused people to be like, okay, like I don't want to do anything right now. But having that virtual consult bridge enables them to find out, is this the right time for me? Is now the right time to have LASIK? And then when you're able to get them in for that consult, there you go, buddy. Color commentary with Connor and Mr. Kang. You got you, bud.
Awesome.
Thanks for jumping in there. I guess I was on pause for so long, the phone just went on mute. So, well, thanks, Connor, for the nice intro, and thanks, Mike, for filling in there. So I'll just kind of pick it up on the opportunities section here. I think the big thing for me here is there's a lot of opportunities right now. What's it going to be like when you reopen, and will you be ready? I think the fear of shutting down all marketing activities is that you're going to totally drain your pipeline. And as Connor presented, we have some extremely good buying opportunities for media right now. I would be very cautious about draining your pipeline down to nothing. I think you need to continue to put stuff into the pipeline. So I have 6 basic things I want to say that I think we have opportunities in. The first one being Google paid search. Initially when, I heard people talking about not stopping that, I was concerned. I thought that, budgets would fall on deaf eyes, deaf ears. And we have some great data that we're going to present here in a little bit about what's gone on with the Google paid search. It's always been a great converter in terms of like the type of lead it is, being intent-based and everything. The second one is going to be, it's a great time to create digital assets. I'll get into that a little bit. Third, there's some really good opportunities in the social media advertising area. Connor touched a little bit on that as well. Also a great time to review your marketing strategy and what are you doing? How long has it been since you've looked at your value proposition? And when you go to a website, do you immediately know why someone would come here? Now's a great time. Doctors are at home. Coordinators are at home. It's a great time to sit back and be like, am I really presenting a good value proposition here? So the strategy part's a good time to be thinking about that. Obviously, a lot of practices have jumped on the bandwagon with virtual consults and starting to see the numbers really, really improve here. I think the thing to know with virtual consults, and I agree with Mike King on this, is that I do think they're going to be here to stay. And people like the comfort of not having to leave their home to go to a busy downtown or something. I think the piece that you need to kind of be a little bit concerned about is, are you staying HIPAA compliant? Are you going to invest in a system that's compliant? Or are you going to, HIPAA is not going to make you be compliant right now, but it is a good time to set up a system, and you're afforded the time to be able to set it up right. You need to make sure that, consent forms are filled out and you're getting these consent forms ahead of time. FaceTime will not be a viable option in the future for virtual consults. So although it's acceptable now, you might want to have a B plan to do it in a little bit more of a compliant fashion. And then lastly, the great time to revisit refractive coordinator training. I think some of my colleagues will talk a little bit more about this after me. However, the lead to consult bottleneck is not going to go away in COVID. We are going to have that when we return, and we're gonna now's a great time for people to freshen up on their skills and being able to kind of move some of these traditional leads into the surgical area. So just to get back to the paid search category, I want to just give everybody a little bit of data that I pulled together. I think, going back to Mike King's graph, it's a great graph. He had the Google Trends graph. So, according to Google Trends, we can see that both traffic for LASIK, the keyword LASIK, and the keyword LASIK surgery has recovered substantially since the early March drop-off. The keyword LASIK surgery in particular is nearly at the same pre-pandemic levels as it was. LASIK, it hasn't quite as recovered quite as much, but it's continuing to trend forward, as you saw in Mike's slide. But the term LASIK surgery is pretty much back at pre-pandemic levels. As it pertains to cataract surgery and cataracts, we have not seen a recovery on those terms. However, they are starting to trend upward. They're not as good as the LASIK trends. I just wanted to throw that in there as refractive cataract surgery can kind of be considered refractive. So I know there's some people out there that are probably tied in with the refractive cataract realm. So I also wanted to just kind of bring out some points that back up the PPC play right now. So what we basically noticed in March by 3 different ad group categories: LASIK, eye care, and cataract. In the LASIK category, we actually saw a 78% increase in the conversion rates of these leads. We actually saw a 6.5% reduction in the cost to acquire that. But we also saw that traffic comes in. We did see a 31% reduction in clicks. Eye care, we had a 45% increase in the conversion rate, 7% reduction in clicks. In the cataract space, 81% increase in the conversion rate, which is great. 26% reduction in the cost to acquire that, and then a 1% reduction in clicks. I think there's a no-brainer opportunity as well. I just got some April numbers on Facebook for the LASIK and cataract ad groups. So for LASIK, the cost per 1,000 CPM is decreased by 40%, and this is into April. The cost per click is decreased by 33%. So, let's keep in mind, this is auction style. So, we're seeing it. This is a great time, once again, to back up what Connor said. And you can literally own your market. Cheap top of mind awareness. It's a good time for that. And Facebook advertising was already cheap. So to hear these numbers be where they are is incredible. And for LASIK, the click actually increased almost 50%. In the cataract case, the cost per 1,000 decreased by 32%. The cost per click decreased by 10%, and the clicks increased by 7%. So although we were seeing trending clicks down on Google, we did not see that on Facebook. Facebook might not be an easier conversion because of the interruption nature of it, but it's almost like a no-brainer in this particular case. So that's what we're seeing there. Just a few other things. I wanted to kind of go back to a couple of the points I made earlier. With the refractive coordinator training, now's a great time to do online tutorials. If there's consultants out there, and some of the colleagues on the call here are very good at training refractive coordinators on lead to surgery conversions. And I think I want to also go back to the creating digital assets. I've had more phone conversations with doctors over the last month than the first 3, and it's great to see them get so involved with their websites and stuff. Now's a great time to work on your website. Great time to make sure it's representing what you want. I think it's also a great time to look at the OD portal. The OD portal is something that it's a marketing thing in and of itself. And typically what happens with OD portals is the practices become way too busy to actually get you the materials that you need to put into these portals. They can be very effective. So now's a great time to resurrect that OD portal project that's been lingering around for half a year. So that's pretty much all I have today. I'd like to pass it over to Amanda at this point, and she's going to talk a little bit more about top of mind, branding, and awareness.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Hi, I'm Amanda Polk. Connor with the balloon, the banana. Hi, I'm Amanda Polk, and I am Vice President and Partner of Miller Public Relations. And for those of you who don't know us, we are a full-service marketing, advertising, and PR firm specializing primarily in the field of ophthalmology for over 25 years. So there's been a lot of talk about what should you be doing? Advertising opportunities that you can and should be capitalizing on. But once you're there and you've done it, now what do you say? And that's the question that I am here to answer today. Different parts of the country are in different places dealing with COVID. I'm here in Texas, and we are definitely ahead of the game with being able to reopen our practices. But whether you have a few days or a few weeks left, the goal is to communicate. Staying quiet is not an option. And before we get into marketing and advertising messaging, I want to take it a couple important steps back. So here at NPR, we have always taken the position that thoughtful internal messaging should always precede your external messaging. And now in the days of, COVID, it's never been more true or important to think about that. This is what we typically tell our valued clients is what we say is true about you on the outside. So what we're marketing about you should absolutely be true on the inside. So inside your practice. And in this scenario, what it really means when you boil down to it is communicating with your staff first. What are their concerns? How can you make them feel safe and comfortable and reinvested in the mission of your practice so that they can then convey that trust and reassurance publicly for you? It's important that you take those questions and you get really, really clear on the answers to them. Find what feels right for you and rings true for your practice. There's no one set of answers that are going to be appropriate to answer those questions. So really think about it and then own it so that it doesn't become just another set of phrases that you picked off a shelf and you slapped your name on it. It's really important that they have meaning to you and your team. And then, of course, make sure your call center team believes in it, feels confident about it, because again, they're the ones who are going to be communicating it. And another foundational NPR philosophy is this: your call center is your bank account. That cannot be argued, glossed over. It's a very, very important point. The people that are handling your leads, handling your phone calls, they are where the money is. That is where the magic happens. Patients won't get to you if they don't have a great experience there. I mean, that's just a fact. So as we get into the actual topic of the message itself, a good phrase to remember is your message should match the moment. And obviously, we know what moment we're in because we're all in it together. And start with an understanding that calls that come in to your practice today are significantly different than the calls that came in before COVID. So lead with safety and health first. You know, things have really been shaken up. Priorities have shifted. People aren't sure what to believe. They've been asked to stay home. People just don't know what to do with themselves anymore. So this is your opportunity to tell them what you are doing to go the extra mile for them and communicate it up front. Don't wait for them to ask questions and you have answers to it. Lead with that. And it's important to remember that right now is probably not the time to be overly salesy, but that doesn't mean that you can't sell. Sell reassurance, sell trust, sell your vision, your mission, your brand. That is the best opportunity. So don't go over the top with it, but really hone in what's important to you and your brand and make that known. People don't necessarily want to hear about your spring fling special if they don't feel reassured and safe coming into your practice, and then that they can trust you with their vision and, I mean, ultimately their life. Sorry. So be a little softer, a little more sensitive. I've been using this phrase a lot. Give your community a virtual hug, if you will, because we are all in this together. Clearly, we don't actually want to give any real hugs, but a big virtual one through your messaging is a strong way to get something out there in the here and now. And that doesn't mean that you have to be serious all the time, right? This is a very serious situation, but every message you put out there doesn't necessarily have to be serious. Social media is a great place to have a little fun, have some social commentary, just know your audience when you're doing that. And obviously, social media is also a great place to show versus tell what your practice is all about and what you're doing. Have you done something in the community? I mean, now's the time to get out in the community. How can you help? I mean, that speaks volumes beyond just saying, hey, we're community minded. So post that to social media, do good things. If you just want to say, hey, we're here for you, record a video, post that to social. Social, I think, has been a resounding theme here, is that that is a place that you just like cannot not be right now. This shared experience has created an opportunity with your potential patients to connect with them on a whole new level. You know, let your messaging relay that. Be real, be a solution to a problem they're facing, whether that's something that's universally always been faced and now they're thinking about it more, or if it's particularly unique to the current situation that we're in. I mean, you are a human as well. You know, lead with that humanity. You're in this experience as well, so it should be simple to think about those things. You know, we live in the same world in which we sell. So your practice's message should really honor that truth. What kinds of things are you concerned about? Health, safety, proper hygiene, financial recovery, security, the future. You know, your audience is concerned about these same things. So now's the time to address these universal concerns in your scripting, in both the reassurance portion about safety and trust, but also the sales portion. How can improved vision help in these same areas of concern that people have been stewing in and thinking about for a while now? And then you want to take that cohesive message. So you've really nailed it down. You've answered the questions. You've got it. It's good. Now, make sure, like we said, that every team member should know and believe it. They are your core. They are your walking, talking marketing message. That's more important. And then make it known. Use all of the current available channels too. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation about low cost media and, clear lanes, and now's the time to be that advertiser that is staying the course, that is getting the message out there, that is there for people, so that when people start flooding back, you've already won the game. You're already at top. And using those available channels to really let people know what you stand for, how you're going about it, and then ultimately welcome them with open arms and gratitude when the time is right. And of course, if you need help nailing down a message, it's always good to call in a trusted and experienced marketing partner. This is what we all do, and it's okay to ask for help. So thank you guys for being here today. And next is Brandy Musgrave. Take it away, Brandy.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm Brandy Musgrave with Fast Track Marketing. I'm the Director of Business Development there. And, everyone has been filling you with a lot of great information that you can take and you can use within your practice. Your practice may not be open right now, but this is a great time to really dig in and see what you can accomplish and make your practice better for when you are able to open. They've talked to you a lot about, how you should keep your marketing rolling, that search and therefore prospecting is there for the taking for those practices that can keep that marketing message open and going. And we know that not everyone can do that, and that's understandable. So let's talk about a few areas within the practice that you can help with to help with those messaging and help rebuild that practice so that when you open those doors back up again, you're stronger. And the first of that is your communication, and that's communication. I know a lot of people have talked about it on this call already before, but your communication with your staff, your patients, your prospects, and your referred doctors. Those are all equally important, and they're all going to have a different message. And that message is probably going to change weekly, if not daily. With this pandemic, everything is changing, everything's shifting. It's a very uncertain time for a lot of people, so we have to make sure that we can control the things that you can control. So, in terms of your staff, this is a great time that you can be helping them with training. A lot of the practices, you have a great tech team, you have great people within the office, but sometimes they need a little bit extra help in terms of how to talk to people about your procedures, how to position your practice as the place to go. So put in some training avenues for your practices so that they know how to position your practice the way they should. Your referring doctors, make sure that you're communicating out to them and letting them know that you're available. If you are doing telemedicine or emergent care, make sure that you're letting them know that your practice is open, you're ready to see those patients, you're able to see those patients, and you're going to treat them with good care. They want to know that you're available, and they want to know what you're going to do to keep their patients safe. So make sure that you're positioning that message out there, and that's going to help you to be stronger with that referring doctor alliance once you're able to reopen those doors. Now, when we talk about your patients, you've had a lot of patients that had those appointments that had to be shifted, they had to be canceled, some of them very last minute. And I'm sure that you have patients that they're not even sure if they want to go out of that house right now. Some people aren't going to go out of the house until there's a vaccine. Some people are ready to get out of their house now. They're tired of being home. So you're going to have different elements that you're going to have to deal with there, but make sure that you're communicating with those patients of what you're able to see, how you're able to see them, what you're going to do when you come back into the office. Have that connection group or that connection link with those patients so that they reach back out to you when they're ready to see you again. And the final element in terms of your communication are your prospects. We all have databases of leads that you have cultivated over the years. And not to say that you're going to hit them hard. What you're going to do is you're going to be able to communicate with them on what your practice is doing. Same thing that you're telling your patients and your referring doctors and your staff. These are the precautions that we're taking. What do you believe in? What is the philosophy of your practice? This is the time that you can address those common questions and concerns that they have. They have time to research. They have time to go through all those questions, concerns, that fact-finding mission that they need to have. So use this time so that when you are able to open that door again, you're filling that funnel. And make sure when you have that green light to finally open the doors, have those communication pieces ready. Have what you're going to place up on social media ready to go. Have your emails, your newsletters that goes out to your patients and your prospects and your referring doctors ready to go. Text messaging is another great way to communicate with those individuals. So you have to think about what you can do in this downtime to really help that practice. So those are some things that you can do to help communicate with your audience there. And another thing, Mike with Glacial brought up a good point that, this is a great time to be looking at, what you're saying on your website. Take that a step further and look at your educational materials and your posters or information that's in the office. All that information needs to make sure that it's reflecting who you are. And you may have changed since when we started this whole pandemic, and your vision when you reopen may be different. So take a look at everything and make sure everything's going to look the best that you want it to look when you open. So next we're going to talk to Paul. So over to you, Paul. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Excellent. Oh, there he is.
All right. So basically, my statement's going to be brief, and thanks everybody for joining us today. First, I just want to make a cataract statement because we're primarily talking about LASIK surgery today. But from what we've seen so far is, I think cataract surgery is going to remain somewhat stable. However, I did want to let you know about some information on the clients that did start doing surgery again. We're calling back the patients that were on hold and moving them forward to the surgery books, get them on the schedule. We do have some patients that just don't want to come in right now because they don't want to get COVID. But with premium lens implants, those who can afford premium lens implants, typically anywhere between 30 to 50% of patients, I don't think the loss in their mutual funds or their retirement is going to stop them from spending $6,000 to $8,000 on something they're going to be using every waking moment for the rest of their life. So that's why this webinar has been primarily refractive based. And it's uncertain times. We don't know what the stock market's going to do. We don't know what the unemployment rate's going to do. And we don't know what LASIK volume is going to do. But we do know if you do nothing, you're probably not going to get much out of it. It's just like my wife said this morning. She's like, isn't it funny, during the last Great Depression, they made alcohol illegal and now they deliver it to your house. And that's how times are changing. It's so radical. But people have been stuck at home. We've all watched Netflix over and over. We watched every series we possibly could. We've read books, and we are getting bored. I mean, especially for those that just can't sit still, which is a lot of the type A personalities. That's why it's really good as physicians for you to sharpen your pencil and make sure that your credit cards don't have weird charges. Make sure that your website is up to date. Make sure your surgical counselors are trained. But they're wanting to. They are shopping. They want to. They have their toilet paper now. Now they're shopping somewhere other than Amazon. So for those that are in glasses and they've been thinking about LASIK, they are online again. LASIK volume searches have more than doubled over the last few weeks again. So that's good news for us. Does it mean that they're actually coming in having surgery? No. But as you've seen from my colleagues, they are scheduling online consultations. Some of them are prepaying for their surgeries and getting on the surgery schedule for the future. But kind of what I want to talk about primarily today is safety. And for me even, COVID's very scary. It keeps changing, doesn't it? We don't know what the mortality rate is. It could be between 2 and 5%. This week we're hearing that it causes coagulation in blood, and young people are starting to have strokes from it. So young people are our LASIK patients, right? So they're also taking precautions. I believe it's really important for you to hammer home on how safe and all the protocols your practice is doing to ensure that when they visit your practice, that they're not going to catch COVID. Of course, we can't say not catch COVID, but we can say we can slow, or stop the progression of it. So this could be patients, practices are having patients wait in their car. Practices are making sure that every patient that visits the practice are making sure that they wear masks. Some that wear gloves, they sanitize the patient's hands once they enter the practice. They have check-in walls with plexiglass with just like, the banks, or if you're in the deep south or somewhere dangerous, they have burglar bars, you have to put it under the plexiglass. But also that, every room is sanitized. That's, every patient that leaves the office, after every patient leaves the office, we sanitize door handles. And this is a message that you really want to get across to your co-managing optometrists as well. So if you send out like optometric newsletters or PCP newsletters on a quarterly basis, make sure that they know that. And then finally, it's just, just want to hammer home again is there's not a lot of people fishing in the pond right now. So that's why marketing right now is important, because I Google searched yesterday, like Austin LASIK or San Antonio LASIK, and there was nobody on paid search. There's usually 10 people on paid search. So the cost per click, the cost per lead is dramatically lower. And from our colleagues, you've heard that conversion rates are higher. That's why it's really important to spend a little bit of money marketing now, because you will see something from it. And the great news about online marketing, you can really track it. If it's not working in a few weeks, you can shut it off, or if it's working, you can increase your budget. And then finally, OptiCall has been a big part of what we do. I started my career probably the biggest LASIK practice ever. We did over 1,000 eyes a month, and it was crucial that we answer the phone correctly. The doctor that I worked for, he put $200 on top of the phone the first day I worked there. And I was like, oh, a bonus already? He's like, that ain't a dang bonus. That's what it costs just to make the phone ring once. So you better not screw it up. Well, with people how they are today in management, it's really hard to manage a call center. So make sure if you don't have the proper people to answer the phone, OptiCall is a great resource for that. Because if you're spending money marketing, it's going to cost you a few $100s just to generate a lead. And also every patient that you're going to miss out on could be $3,000 to $4,000. So phones are going to be crucial. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Megan with IMAX.
All right.
You have the screen control, Megan?
I do. Thank you. So I'm Megan with IMAX. I'm the Director of Marketing and COO over here. Just like Miller, Public Relations, we've been in this game for 25 years now. So we've seen a lot. We've seen 9/11. We saw the recession. We helped customers, our clients, get on the other side of those. But this is different because we don't know where the light at the end of the tunnel is, and we also don't know what that light looks like. But what we do know is that you can take some control. If we just sit and do nothing, you can expect a nothing outcome. But if you take control and you put some things in place now, you're setting yourself up for the most success that you can possibly have after this. So I'm a visual person and I'm super type A, so I like to get really organized. What I would suggest to everybody is to put a game plan in place to fill your pipeline. Your pipeline is not just your leads. It is your consults, and it's the people that you've already determined are candidates. So I'm going to show you this graphic. Okay, so leads, what does that mean? Well, we want to capture new leads, right? We want to do so in a few ways. We can do so like we've talked about in digital marketing, because there's less fish in the pond to compete with. We can easily turn it on, turn it off, change our message, and really track that. How can we bring leads in through those digital marketing right now when maybe for your practice you can't schedule a consult? You can engage them with quizzes, guides, contests, get them just signed up for an email newsletter to get updates on your practice. There's a lot of different ways you can capture new leads right now. One of my clients, we put a couple different strategies in place. From March 20th through April 20th, we received 233 new leads. That's a lot of work your customers, your counselors can be put to. they can work on converting those leads into that next step, which is the consults, if you can work to bring those new leads in. The other thing you need to do with leads is to engage with the leads that you already have. I think most practices out there could say that they're not converting 100% of the leads that come into consults. So the bucket that you had already with your leads before the shutdown, let's work those leads. How can we do that? Well, let's engage them by educating them, informing them, doing virtual webinars, inviting them to that, sending out, motivating them with patient testimonials. So let's engage the leads that we've already captured in the past to move them into the next bucket, which is consults. Here's the tricky one, right? Is consults. Well, what do I do? My practice can't take consults right now. Maybe you're just opening and you still have a backlog of general eye care patients you have to see. Maybe you're not open yet. What do I do to move those patients, those new leads captured, into that next bucket? Well, that's where we've been talking about virtual consults. We have to not just accept the change, but we have to embrace it. We have to basically seize this opportunity that the current situation is forcing us to mold into different things. I've been talking about virtual consults with my clients for years. I've always said this demographic, they want to be online, they want it to be convenient, and they want it to be now. What better way than a virtual consult? Well, the current landscape's almost forcing us to do these things if we want to continue to move our pipeline forward. Here's a great thing. Force it to do it now because we're shut down. It's the only way to continue to move patients forward. But the other great thing is virtual consults aren't going to be going away. So you set it up now when you have the time, and then you're going to capitalize that when you do reopen or when you do get back to some sort of normalcy. You already know, you've worked out the kinks, you know the platform you're using, you know what's working and what's not working. If you do that now while you have the time, you're just going to see such a great benefit when you do reopen. We all know once we start to reopen, things are going to be difficult. We're going to be changing, we're going to be figuring things out. We're not going to have as much time then as we do now. I really, really stress to everybody to seize the opportunity of time right now. Innovate, try new things. If you haven't done text marketing, it is a great way to communicate with this demographic. They're responding via text right now. If you haven't done it yet, put it in place now when you have the time. So we talked about consults, and we're going to talk a little bit more with Dr. Eisner about virtual consults and how we can help those patients convert from the virtual consult, taking the next step to exam and to surgery. And I'm sure if you are working with a vendor or if you need somebody, a lot of us are very familiar with this and can help walk you through the best way to do this. The other bucket you need to continue to move forward in the pipeline is that bucket of candidates. We all have a bucket of candidates that we have seen in the past before the shutdown, and they, for some reason, didn't move forward to surgery. So what can we do with that bucket? We don't want our pipeline to have a stopper here and not to be able to move forward in surgery. This is the other part that's really important. If you're a practice where your consults are typically not seen by your surgeon, why not utilize this time that we have to open that up? Allow somebody we've already determined as a candidate to have a one-on-one phone call or virtual Zoom call with the surgeon to be able to ask their questions, so your surgeon can make sure that they feel comfortable and confident, not only in LASIK, but in your practice, in the procedure that was recommended to them. Utilize the time that we have now. Take those opportunities to keep this pipeline flowing so that as soon as you can open your doors, you have a queue of people ready to schedule surgery. Not when you open your doors, oh gosh, now what do? We have to start to work through those consults or work through those past candidates. If you start putting all of this time in now, you can see a bigger benefit as soon as you open your doors. So I know some of this sounds tricky because a lot of this is new, right? I mean, a lot of this is totally new to us. We don't do virtual consults. We don't have the surgeon have a one-on-one phone call with a patient. But again, if you can accept the change and embrace it, you're going to be a step ahead of your competition, and you're going to be ready, a lot more prepared for when you open your doors to start doing surgery. So just get back in the game. Don't sit there. Don't do nothing. That's about the worst thing you can do right now. Everybody kind of starts to see the light. A lot of the states are reopening. If you haven't reopened yet, start doing these things now. Innovate. Start doing things that you've always said you were going to be doing. Mike Dubkowski mentioned, hey, OD portal. If you haven't done it, if you've talked about it, you didn't have the time to do it, do that now. Text marketing, a virtual webinar, virtual consult. Start putting things in place because you have the time. And then, seize the opportunity right now that we all have, which is to put some new things in place and to start to move forward and fill that pipeline so you guys can be as successful as possible, once you open. So I'm going to turn it back over to Bill to introduce our great guest speaker.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that, Meg.
I just want to mention real quick, just so the audience knows, that these are the last of the presenters, and we're going to have Dr. Eisner, and then we're going to open it up for questions, just so you guys have an idea. I know it's kind of running on for a little bit, but we're going to stay on here till 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
Right,
ahead,
right.
Bill.
Excellent. I did want to make one comment in that I've seen, since this whole thing started, different reactions from practices. Some seem like they've just kind of left the practice and abandoned it, and their phones aren't being answered at all, or everything's going into voicemail, and anybody calling in would think that that practice is completely closed. While other practices have kept a skeleton crew, or we're answering their phones, or whatever it may be. And it's really important in this time to let these people know that are at home, that may have had appointments or need appointments or whatever it may be, know that you are there, that you are open, and not get that sense that you're closed and there's nobody there to take care of them. The second thing that I wanted to mention is we talked a lot about these virtual consults, and that this is going to be a way of the future, and it's incredibly important right now. There are, and I've seen a lot of websites, some are very good at announcing the virtual consult concept, and some aren't as good. So with the ones that aren't as good, it's kind of down on a page somewhere. With the ones that are better, it's right there in your face as soon as you open up their website. They've changed whether it's temporary or permanent, changed the design of their website to let people know as they're researching, they can call right now, they can actually have a virtual appointment very, very soon. They don't have to wait for the practice to open its doors back up. So do we have Dr. Eisner on the line with us? Dr. Eisner?
It looks like he's loading his video, but I think
Okay.
his microphone might be on.
Coming on right now. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Dr. Eisner on is early after this whole thing started to happen, I was connecting with some of my practices, and he happened to call me up. We're just talking about the state of the industry in the early stages, and we talked about that idea of, you've got to get up and go to work just like you went to work before this all happened. If you dress in a banana shirt in the morning, then dress in a banana shirt still while you're at home, and act like you are working. Otherwise, it's too easy to get in a funk. And he said, well, Bill, let me tell you what I'm doing. And as Megan had talked about those different funnels that you need to be concentrating on right now, that's exactly what Dr. Eisner was doing. He was looking at this and thinking very quickly, how can I make the most out of what's happening right now? Most practices are going to stand by, they're going to be closed, they're going to be only doing emergencies only, and only bringing in very little revenue. I need to figure out a way to capitalize on the work that I've already done, the consults that have already been through the system. And I don't know if you have audio, Dr. Eisner. It looks like your video is.
Do you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah.
I don't know why my webcam is not loading. Let me X myself out and try to come back again.
And I appreciate our time on the phone, over the past few weeks, and just learning a lot about your strategies too. I think there are strategies that a lot of practices can capitalize on, some now and then some in the future. But I think these strategies are here to stay.
Does anybody know what I might do to load my webcam? Because it doesn't seem to be coming on. You hear me, don't you?
We can hear you.
Cover over it. It looks a little different now.
It's not loading. I'm not sure why.
we might just have to move forward.
Well, I can do audio only.
Yeah, that's fine.
You don't think I should log out and come back in, do you?
I think the only reason why it's probably not showing it, it might be a permissions thing for your camera to allow the GoToWebinar to access the camera.
All right, let me take one more minute to look, and if not, then I will just speak. Ah, I see. I see.
There we go.
Sorry. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you. Hello, everybody. So I want to apologize. First of all, I had to come late, and I think I have to leave early. So I apologize in advance. I think I was last to my office on March 20th or thereabouts. I've been out about a month. I have a LASIK practice in Macon, Georgia, and I do exclusively LASIK. I've done only LASIK since I opened this office in 2000. And as Megan pointed out, we've had, in the refractive world, LASIK, we've had certainly our share of, challenges, 9/11 and recession and so forth. This one's different. I also want to say that what I'm going to talk about, I think, is relevant way beyond LASIK. Obviously, I'm interested in LASIK in my practice, but I think the principle of what I'm going to talk about is applicable for other businesses as well. People that my background's in engineering, and people that know me know that it's not that I don't like doing things the way everybody else does them, but in a way I don't like doing things the way everybody else does them. So a lot of times my mind just looks at things and says, what else could we do? Maybe that's the engineering background. But after I was home for a week.
Bill, are you having any trouble with the audio?
Say it again.
I was just starting to have a little trouble with my audio. I don't know if that was my internet connection.
No, his audio's
Bill,
good.
are you able to hear him okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me check and make sure where my audio is coming from.
Hearing him fine.
You're good. I think it was my computer or my
Is it
internet.
better?
Yeah, you're good.
After I was home for about a week, I got really, really antsy and thinking about sitting around for an unknown period of time. And I noticed that the subtitle of this program is Post-COVID-19 Growth Strategies. And what I want to talk to you about is more of an interim or immediate growth strategy. I personally, my family, we're being very, very conservative about all the money we spend and what we do. And it would be logical to think that that's what everybody's doing. But actually, that's not the case. I came up with an idea, a plan, a strategy, and my friend and technical associate Nick Sudhouse from Convo 360 helped me put this together. And we have been doing what we're calling a data reactivation campaign. Initially, it was going to be an advertising campaign on Facebook, and then it turned out it didn't have to be, and we haven't spent any money. But going from the assumption that nobody wants to spend any money right now, in the last 2.5, we started 3 weeks ago. In the last 2.5 weeks, we have successfully scheduled is not really the right word because we don't know when we're going to be back in business, but we have received payment for LASIK for 31 at the moment patients, and perhaps will be 35 or 40, maybe more before we're done. And I'll tell you what I'm doing, enough of what I'm doing, and then I'll give you a resource where you can learn more so that you can either do this or get with me and Bill and Nick and find out what to do. The idea is, and it's interesting, there's a lot of what I will call corona relevant psychology that goes into this and that I've learned how to deal with on this. But what we've done is we've taken what Megan talked about, and I missed some of the earlier speakers, but a step further and gone into our records of who has been in or who has contacted us, and created a AI-based incentive program. So it's all done through a artificial intelligence-based texting system, a semi-automated, of offering an incentive for people to basically prepay their LASIK while we're out. And the interesting thing is that, presented the right way with what I'm calling corona-related psychology, people understand that we also, just like they, have to survive, that our lasers are expensive to maintain, that our staff running in the background needs to be able to come out of this and provide a level of service. And so implementing this data reactivation campaign, we have been able, through a funnel that automatically eliminates those people that aren't appropriate, communicate with. I've been doing phone calls. I did many of them myself, which the patients are surprised and love, but we're calling them virtual consultations, but really they're phone calls, and communicating with the patients directly, presented properly and communicated effectively. We've been able to incentivize our LASIK in a way that's mutually beneficial, that they understand, and that they've been happy to prepay. Now, again, this is shocking to me and to many people. I didn't think this would work, but what I've found in my conversations with people is that because of this auto selection process, a lot of people aren't out of work, and a lot of people, their income and lifestyle isn't threatened. Maybe in the bigger picture they know, but it's not. And they're still planning their future, and they're still wanting to do things. And so given an opportunity, I guess maybe a parallel would be there are a lot of people buying stocks right now, as opposed to nobody's buying stocks. There are a lot of people who are buying stocks. So we have implemented this campaign, and we've been able to have, at the moment, over 30 patients prepay for LASIK. One of the question I get right away is, well, when are we going to do it? And I say, look, we're not in a hurry. Safety's been a big conversation point here, and it's a big issue for us. When it is as soon as we can, and no sooner than it is deemed safe and reasonable, we'll be scheduling their LASIK. So in a way, and I'll give you another resource, but in a way, we're just doing it backward. Normally, and I sometimes tell the patients this, they have a free screening, we do mask measurements, we do an exam, we talk about money, they schedule, and they have their procedure, and we're literally doing it backwards. We're asking them to pay first, crazy enough, and then come in and do all those things, and then have their procedure with the safety net that if for some reason they can't have it done, then we, of course, will give their money back. So I think that's all I have. Let me show you something. Just in case, I didn't really have as much time as I wanted to spend. Look at that real quick. LASIKquestions.com/corona. You could actually take a screenshot or snap a picture of that. But if you want to, the best way you can find out a whole lot more about this from me is to go there, and that'll be a good starting point. And Bill is very knowledgeable about this, and Nick Sudhouse is very knowledgeable. And I think that's all I have at the moment, unless there are any questions for me.
I have a question.
Thank you, Dr. Eisner. We're kind of running out of time, and we've got some questions. A couple of these might be relative to you. One is,
Dylan, if I could just ask one before we get to the audience questions. How relevant have payment options been in the grand scheme of this post COVID-19 and with this plan that you're doing?
Totally. I mean, I would say that half of our patients are paying with credit card and the other half with financing.
That's great to know. So it's critical to have options.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the things they ask, well, how are we going to pay for it? And I said, well, my staff will arrange it just like they always do.
Right, great.
So
thank you for having me on, by the way.
That you might be able to answer, Dr. Eisner, is one is, somebody wanted to know what specific promotions you're running. I know you kind of touched on it. I don't know if you're comfortable sharing what your practice is putting out to the patients.
Have contact me. Go there and contact me, because I will say this. I'll say it as a general, as a philosophy, and then I'll be glad to share it with anybody. It's got to be something it's got to be better than what we usually do.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Corona. Okay. This is something unique. This is odd. This is unusual. And so the idea of LASIK discounting and all that, I'm not a discounter. I basically charge the same as I have for the last 15 years, but this is Corona time. So a philosophy would be, whatever it is, it's got to be better than what it normally is.
Now, one more question for you is, how do you handle pricing over a virtual consult? One of our practices wanted to know, like, if you can't actually verify their prescription, unless you offer like a flat rate. Do you do tiered pricing at your practice?
We don't do tiered pricing, so it's not an issue for us.
Okay, that makes sense. That was one of the things we were going to suggest, maybe during this time, maybe if it's possible, a practice might want to transition to a flat rate based on the current circumstances.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. We're down to about 9 minutes left, and I want to be able to spread some of these questions out among some of our panelists. Bill, did you have anything for Dr. Eisner before we bring some of the other panelists back in?
No, I appreciate everything, you coming on the line with us like this. I know I kind of put you on the spot when I asked you the other day. You're very gracious to say you would love to do it, and as I had mentioned earlier, I really respect what you're doing too, and I would encourage anybody that would like to learn more about the process of what he's doing, take a look at the website, and he can definitely help you out.
All right. Well, Dr. Eisner, if you don't mind turning your video camera off, we're actually limited on how many people we can turn on at a time.
Sure.
I'm going to bring back the first 4 panelists to answer a couple questions. So if we could have Michael King, Connor, Michael Dubkowski, and Amanda turn theirs on. I'll let you guys field the first round of questions. So I'm kind of multitasking here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, well, somebody, one of the first questions was about virtual consults versus just telephone calls. What's the value of virtual consults? And raise your hand if you're interested. Okay, well, we'll let Connor take the first one, and then we'll rotate up. Go ahead, Connor.
I don't think there's really a difference, to be honest. I think we're telling people, Amanda, you might, your reaction might.
It's cool, yeah.
No.
And we have
from my perspective, right? I don't think we're calling them virtual consults, but we're giving people the option to do it either via, telemedicine via video or via just over the phone. So we're actually selling both. We're saying schedule your free virtual consultation, and then you have the option to choose whether you want to do it over the phone or do it virtually. And so we're just giving people the option. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, no, I do agree with the option. Like, we should always be flexible to what the patient wants or needs. But what I was going to say about video versus phone is that when you incorporate video, I feel like it formalizes the process in a lot of regards, and it also allows for more of a similar face-to-face interaction that you don't necessarily get with a phone call. Yes, there's less friction with a phone call, but a lot of times that face-to-face, like body language, being able to see how people react to the answers of your question, that's a really important part of creating that human connection that you would normally get in the office.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would, go ahead, Dr. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in regards to the phone versus video thing, I think, the phone, I liked what Amanda had to say there, and to back that up, I was on a call today with a very good veteran refractive coordinator from Boston, and he was like, I'm closing all of these cases because I have the doctor with me on the call, and the doctor's at home, he's at home, they're both on the call together, and the patient gets all this attention, and so normally he's got to convert these to surgery in an office at the practice by himself while the doctor's busy seeing patients. So he loves having the physician with him. He's like 98% conversion rate.
We actually had somebody comment on the questions here, just saying they've converted 24 of 25 virtual consults, and they've taken over 4,300 in deposits. On the OWL webinar a couple weeks ago, Haley Bowling from Bowling Vision said something significant about Kodak and how they were the first company to come out with a digital camera, but they didn't really embrace that technology, and their competitors caught up with them. So really the message, the takeaway is like, now's the time to be innovative. And like, I don't think virtual consults are going away. So now's a good time to embrace that. We're gonna have to jump on to the next question.
Can I say just a quick thing? One quick thing, Bud, is that I would agree, it accelerates trust. And then number 2, it allows you to have the ability to show slides if you wanted. And then number 3, you also can be able to get the down payment if you had a form online. You can do that with the patient by doing the virtual consult on video. But
using
go ahead.
things like Rendia to show videos, you can
Yeah.
do that really easily as well. So it feels more authentic to the in-office experience while still being convenient for the patient.
This one's quick. Are people charging for video consultations? Dubkowski, you want to take that? Since you're
I'm not seeing anyone charging for them. Everybody that I see has it for free on their website.
I think you would want to create the path of least resistance. So I wouldn't recommend that unless you have such a demand that you can't keep them. So no, and maybe even consider webinars. I know
I have seen it, but I don't recommend it.
Like Dr. Eisner said, this is COVID and you have to do something better. You have to do, so.
You got to be different. Yeah. You can't, I wouldn't charge for the
So what's the most cost-effective form of advertising right now? I think the answer is pretty clear among this panel.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword because of conversion rate to surgery. But I'll jump in first. I think the Facebook newsfeed ads data is just too overwhelming right now. I think the only issue I have there's no doubt you're going to get more leads. There's no doubt you're going to get a ton of leads, traffic.
Nope.
Your audio just cut off.
Lost your audio, bud.
I can pick up what he's going to say. Basically, you're going to get a ton more leads, but they're harder to convert. But it's all about still filling that pipeline, right? These are people who are raising their hand and saying they're interested in your service. You do a radio ad, it falls on deaf ears 50% of the time because people aren't wearing glasses or contacts. And these are people who have shown interest. You have their contact information now, and you can nurture them. So down the road, they're coming through the pipeline.
And then go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Amanda. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I've actually seen more interaction with display ads as well, more so than ever. Honestly, impressions always cheap, right? But I've seen more clicks on display ads, which surprised me. I think probably just a bored audience, a bored searcher. They're seeing it and they're like, oh, okay, let's see what happens. So I have seen an uptick in that, and that's been a traditionally cheap way to run some simple campaigns as well.
And even if before you go into cold traffic, I would suggest that you take all of the leads that you have from the last X period of time, upload them as a custom audience in Facebook, and you can be able to retarget them with an ad to go to a virtual consultation. But I'm also, to Amanda's point, I think that interruption style advertising a la Facebook, Instagram, display ads is going to be a good way to augment if there's less people on search on Google Ads, right? So, but right now you're looking at, there's just less people advertising on Google. So if you have the ability to afford the budget, it's a great time to advertise.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, guys. I'm going to have to switch to panelists now just to answer the last few questions, but really appreciate everybody's participation. So if Megan and Paul and Brandy want to jump back in.
Sorry.
All right. Okay. For the question on hand, any foreseeable conflict with messaging and asking for deposit money up front? Raise your hand if you would like to take that.
I'll do it. So as a refractive counselor myself, and I think if somebody's getting a really good deal, there's a saying in economics, which is you save your money when times are good and you spend your money when times are bad, because that's when you're going to get a deal. For example, I bought a 2017 GT 350 right before the crash, and I thought I got a great deal. You know why? I bought it from the guy that was actually trading it into the dealership. Fast forward just a month, and I can get that car from a dealership for $2,000 less than I bought it from the guy. So same thing with LASIK. If you're offering a really good discount, doesn't even matter when you're going to get your LASIK. It's probably going to be in the next few months. But I think paying a deposit, they're not going to care. They're getting at a substantial savings. If it's about the same price you're always charging, I think there's going to be some difficulty in getting them to pay that deposit, because people are saving their money for when times are going to be bad and they don't know how bad it's going to be. So that's the best way I can describe it.
Good. I'd absolutely agree with you, Paul. I think, from what we've seen with practices, we have some practices that are taking a deposit when that surgery is scheduled, and you can have some that After that virtual consultation is completed and when they're scheduling them for a candidacy exam in the office, they're setting the expectation that there's a deposit for them to have preferred scheduling when the surgery schedule actually opens back up, and they don't have to wait for the backlog of people for the last few months that have had to be rescheduled there. So, but I do agree that you have to have very competitive pricing right now if you are going to ask for that deposit.
And I'd like to add too, if you can hear me, that doesn't have to be a published savings. That's something that if you're giving a preferred price, you're giving that during that consultation and letting them know if you do commit to surgery or give a deposit, this is the preferred price that we will provide to you. But the other piece of this is a little bit about what Brandy said, is that preferred surgery schedule time is working on those patients' motivations. What is their motivation for looking into LASIK right now? A lot of people are motivated because of what's happening, because of COVID, because they don't want to be wearing their contacts. They've heard that, maybe it's not very safe to be putting my contacts in. So work on some of those motivations when you're trying to get them scheduled sooner, and then getting that deposit to make sure they get that preferred surgery date is what we can kind of work on with that messaging.
Great. So next question, any thoughts on remote waiting rooms? Once they're able to see patients again, like are people going to be waiting in their cars versus in the waiting rooms?
I've heard, I've had a practice prior to even the shutdown where they were using a texting system. They would check in, they'd go wait in their car, and then the practice would actually text them when it was ready to come in. So I think we're going to see a lot of that continue.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good statement. I'm going to raise my hand this time, but I think it's just like Dylan was picking on me. I think right now having patients in your waiting room together is not a good thing. It's like I just saw a meme on Facebook. Charles Darwin said, if you don't want to practice social distancing, it's okay. And I think for quite some time, practices either have to get the patients into the rooms they're going to be seen in, or they're going to have them wait in their car. I don't think having a patient next to another patient in a waiting room is a good thing. There's a Chinese study that just came out in the restaurant a few days ago, if you saw it, but it was a real study. They found patient 0 inside of a restaurant, and how this one person inside of the restaurant eating spread COVID to like 6 to 8 other people in the restaurant just by the air conditioning circulating it around. So I don't think that that's going to be a possibility for a while.
We're going to do one more question.
Just real quick here, just to add to that, I think some things that practices can be doing now to help you when you go into seeing patients and to not have everyone congregating in those waiting rooms is do as much as you can with that patient on the phone. So all going through the consent form, all the patient education that you have to do, everything that you can talk to the patient about, there's no reason that you have to have them in the office for that. So I think there's going to be a staging that you're going to have to go through within the practice of, and it's going to depend on, where this virus is and, in 3 months or 6 months down the line. But, I think it's going to be a staging process. Do as much as you can outside the office.
That's a great point, Brandy. All right, and some people have asked about the recording. My dog in the background. We are recording the event, and I'm going to send an email out to everybody, copy all of our panelists so you have everybody's contact information. And we also have a survey at the end of this webinar. If you don't mind, we'd love your feedback. And if you'd like to hear from anybody individually, please let us know. Last question that I want to address here is about any insights or pearls on handling communications with referring ODs.
So I think, go ahead, Megan.
I was just trying to, follow the rules this time. No, Brandy, you start. It's fine. Sorry.
So I think the big thing is just keeping them informed of what you're doing in the office. Email is a great form of communication to them. Text messaging works really great too if you do have their cell phone numbers. but just communicating what you're doing to keep their patients safe. And as far as those referrals coming over, keeping a close communication with the referral doctor and the patient so that no one feels lost in that shuffle.
All right.
Go ahead, Megan.
One last comment? Okay.
You might want to also look at prioritizing some of your referring ODs patients as well. You want to keep those relationships as strong as possible, especially during this time. They're a key to a lot of patients. I actually have a practice that they let their referring ODs know that their OptiCall was actually doing like drive-up contact lens pickups and glasses, and their ODs who are completely closed were able to send their patients over to this practice, which obviously would typically not ever happen, but they're just showing that they can work together, they can partner together, keeping that trust. And again, prioritizing some of those OD patients too. Those ODs do not want to call you and hear that their patient had to wait 3 months to come see you. We need to keep them happy as well, or they're going to find somewhere else to refer their patients to.
Awesome. Paul, we can't hear you. You have your mute on.
Yeah, I did. So we use Salesforce as basically a CRM to send out messages to ODs. That way you can always see what message you sent out. And it's, ODs aren't dumb. They're very smart. They know exactly what is going on. They know what patients you can see, but it's good to send them out the messages. Hey, we might be reopening this day. We're going to be able to do LASIK surgery and cataract surgery, and just keep them updated. And the thing about keeping them updated isn't just about keeping them updated. It's all about top of the mind awareness, right? Toma, you send them messages, they're going to remember you when all of this ends.
Awesome. Well, Bill, do you have anything you want to add before we close here?
The only thing I'd like to add is I really appreciate everybody coming on board here and sharing some ideas. I think one of the things that we really need to consider as we're moving forward is the past few weeks have been devastating to so many businesses, so many practices that we work with. They went from the revenue that they were bringing in to about 10 to 15% of the revenue that they used to bring in. So they're financially hurting too. So the key now and over the next few weeks and over the next few months is that they're maximizing the revenue per encounter. So they need to bring in the practice and prioritize appointments there that are going to bring in the most money. LASIK patients having surgery, cataract patients. And so, the whole idea of telemedicine and getting some of these other things done and saving the time in the practice for these patients that are going to generate more revenue is very, very important. And so that's all.
I'll actually let you take one more question. I think this is a great question because I know we have some of the main financing companies on this. How do you recommend practices implement financing as a conversion vehicle?
Well, I think that financing is important in any conversation. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. And, people that have thought about it, myself included, for me right now, I made a major purchase for my house. I bought a home gym, and I had the money in the bank, but I want to keep the money in the bank now, just the security of what's going on. So I used a way to finance it. And I think that's what's going to happen with a lot of people too. They may, even if they have the money in the bank, they may not want to take that money out of their bank account and use it for something. So, the companies that offer the payment options are the best option that they have for that.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. It's been a great experience. We're honored to have hundreds of people be a part of this presentation today, and we hope we can build some momentum back into the refractive market. And stay tuned for future webinars, and please let us know how we can help with anything. Thank you very much.
Take care.